For the 7th episode of the Game On podcast, we are so grateful to have with us Skylar Scarnecchia. Skylar is on the Alabama women's wheelchair basketball team and was a part of their national championship team in 2025. Skylar is from Champion Township, Ohio, born to her parents, Trisha and Jim, and to her brother, Isaiah. Skylar, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
It's so good to have you. I've been waiting to have you since the very beginning.
Well, I love watching your podcast.
Oh, I appreciate that, Sky. It's so good to have you. Before we get started, Sky, let's have a sip of Powerade before we get started. This episode of the Game On podcast is brought to you by our friends at Powerade. I'm ready to go now.
All right,
I'm ready to go. Excellent.
I'm feeling energized. So.
Excellent. So Skylar, you growing up in Ohio, to your parents, your older brother, Isaiah, tell us about your early childhood. And let's start with this. We'll start with a deep question today. What is your earliest childhood memory?
That's a really good question to start off with. I would say my earliest childhood memory is, I would say basketball. I've played basketball since 2nd grade, so being able to shoot in the driveway with my father and my mom watching on the back porch and my brother just kind of wandering, doing his thing. I think that would be just my earliest childhood memory is just those fun summer moments shooting on the basketball hoop with my family.
Hey, you were involved in sports at a young age. How many sports do you think you tried going up through middle school?
I've tried so many. I've tried soccer, track, volleyball, golf, basketball, stand-up basketball, wheelchair basketball, and yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot for kids. I think it's so important when you're young to try as many sports as you can. We're at the day and age now where you have 6-year-old travel teams,
yes.
And everyone's doing so much and so specialized at such a young age. I think you lose the joy of what it is to be in sports as a kid. Youth sports should be fun, and it shouldn't be stressful. And you should be able to do as many sports as you can.
I agree.
At the same time. Having an older brother, did that inspire you to do more with athletics as well?
I have to say I'm the athletic
You're
child.
The athletic one.
I'm the
Excellent.
athletic one. I've tried all the sports, and not saying I was good at all the sports. Basketball was the one that stuck, but my brother was the brains where I was the sporty. So.
Hey, how about your parents? Did they get you involved in athletics at a young age too, or were they athletic themselves growing up?
Yes, I would say, I think my mom did cheer in high school and did dance and played softball and was really good at all of those. And then my dad was good at basketball in high school and just growing up as well. So my dad kind of brought me into the love of the game of basketball.
So growing up in Ohio, I mean, the first 10 years of your life prior to your diagnosis, was that fairly normal?
Yes.
For you? Yes.
Yeah. So my childhood was always just very happy, healthy. I had no problems. I was never sick as a kid. And me and my family would go on vacations, and it was just always just such a happy time. I really had such a wholesome and happy childhood that I'm so thankful for.
And then we get to the part when you're 10 years old and you start having foot pain. Tell us about that and what that situation was like, and this next chapter of your happy childhood.
Yeah. When I was playing soccer, 4th grade year, I started feeling just the uneven ground, and it was pushing in the bottom of my foot. And it was just excruciating pain, and I didn't really know why. And then it led to us going on vacation to the beach, and the sand with the bumps on it was digging into the bottom of my foot, and still I was complaining of pain. But I was I don't want to get help because I want to continue playing basketball. So eventually throughout the summer, my mom was like, Sky, we need to get this checked out. And we finally caved in, and I went to a foot and ankle doctor, and she was like, you have plantar fasciitis. We're going to get you orthotics, get you in physical therapy, just do your exercises to help work it out and all the knots in the bottom of your foot, and we'll see where that goes. And I would say we went a pretty long time doing that, but nothing was helping, and it just kept hurting worse and worse until my mom had her gut instinct and was like, there's something else wrong with Sky. And so I went and got a MRI at just a local doctor's office, and they're like, we've never seen anything like this before, but your daughter has a tumor the size of a golf ball in the side, in the bottom of her foot. And they're like, but it's for sure going to be benign. There's not going to be anything wrong with it. Like, again, we've never seen this before, so I'm sure you're fine. And my mom, I think, just always had that feeling, it's not going to be fine. So 2 weeks later, I ended up getting a biopsy at the Cleveland Clinic. And what my parents described it as was I was asleep still. And they saw the doctor come across like the glass windows and came in with tears in his eyes. And he was like, I'm so sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Scarnecchia, but your daughter has cancer. And we still didn't know what kind it was, how severe it was, but all we knew that it was cancer. And so we came home, and my family, like my parents didn't tell me yet. It sat me and my brother down on the couch and was like, so you got a biopsy today. And we did get the results and said, Skylar, you have cancer. And in that moment, we just broke down. Like, me and my brother just held each other in his arms and cried. And my parents came and embraced us as well. And it was truly one of those moments where it's like, nothing's ever going to be the same again. And where do we go from here?
That's a moment no one ever wants to hear. The words, you have cancer, and your parents never want to hear the words, your child has cancer. And we hear that too often. We hear that too often these days. But what you've done with childhood cancer awareness as well has been outstanding in your advocacy, and you're making that the awareness, and making it feel, making them not feel different. Not feel different. It's so tough to be singled out for a disability, whether it be or having a disease like cancer, and it can be so damaging, especially when you're young. Especially when you're young. How did you move on from that point? What was the next step you took as a family?
Yeah. Well, I think in that moment, I grew up in the church, and my family always was very heavy in our faith and preached that to me, like everything happens for a reason. And so even in that moment, we didn't fall short. We prayed together and immediately just started worshiping within any car ride we had together. And within 2 weeks, we were getting chemo treatment. And I remember, like, on my way to my very first treatment, listening to Blessings by Laura Story. And that was like my song throughout my whole journey. I just remember crying to it and being like, it's going to be okay, but like, I have to stay strong. Like, God doesn't bring us so far to fail us now. So I always knew that there was a purpose for it, but I just kept a smile on my face. And that's all I could really do at the time, because if I just sat there and sulked and like let cancer take over my life, I don't know if I would be here today necessarily.
Sometimes in life, things just happen for a reason. I think everything happens for a reason. And I know you've said this as well in the past. There's no such thing as coincidences.
Nope.
No such thing as coincidences. And our life is proof of that in so many ways. So how did getting those chemo treatments, obviously you're a fifth grader at the time. How did that impact your schooling, interaction with friends? What was that like, and how did people around you reach out to you during that time?
Everyone was so loving and so like came just together as a community for me. It was during an election year, and it was kind of funny. I had like yard signs made up, and like with the two presidential candidates.
That was a big one.
I think I had more yard signs than both of them combined in our
That's
whole
so much better. It's so much better anyway.
I would say so. But that just really kind of shows how much support we had within the community. Now, granted, it's super lonely times still within our family, but it was refreshing to have people supporting us for fundraising. And yeah, but with friends-wise, I think they make cards for me in school and like would send me emails through my school email. And like, even to this day, like when I was graduating high school, I look back at all those and it actually made me cry, because I was like, I came so far, and I'm excited to touch on that later. But yeah, I don't think I would have been able to get through it unless I did have that support system, which I was very lucky for.
So you go through the chemo treatments. The cancer was in your lungs as well, and the chemo treatment was able to remove that from your lungs, correct?
It removed one of my nodules, but there's still some left over.
some left over, but it wasn't moving from your foot. So where did you go from there?
So my tumor, my cancer, synovial sarcoma, and it was stage 4 at this point. And they said it was probably growing in my foot before kindergarten. And looking back at photos, we saw the size difference in my leg. So I was subconsciously putting weight on like my other leg than this one.
So 5 years.
Yes, it was a long time that cancer was growing in me, and we didn't catch it till going into my 5th grade year. And so after my amputation, because I went through multiple rounds of chemo, and those were it was vigorous and hard, but it wasn't working. So my amazing surgeon was like, it's either you amputate or you're going to have a dead foot, whether you radiate or we try to like go around and take out the tumor. And he was like, with the technology nowadays, with prosthetics, amputation is the best course of action. So we did it. And soon after that, like Cleveland Clinic wasn't really doing what we wanted for my lungs yet. So we ended up going to Children's Nationwide in Columbus, and they said, we're going to do a lung surgery. And I would have to say that was probably the darkest part of my journey, was my lung surgery. Because as a lung patient after surgery and like tubes sticking out of your chest, you have to walk to the door and back in order to get discharged. Well, I don't have a leg at this point. So I told the doctor, I was like, I don't have a leg. I can't walk to the door. They're like, you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to hop. You're going to you have to use your walker. And so I was like beside myself. I was like, what do you mean? But in that moment, I just got like this, again, it was just God. Like I just felt him just take over that moment. And I grabbed that walker and hopped to the door and came back and was discharged. So I knew after that moment, though, like this is the beginning. As soon as I walk out those hospital doors, I'm in remission. I can start my life again.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And so where do you leave those doors? You're in remission. What's next at that point? How do you reacclimate back into schooling, back into your childhood with an amputation?
So basketball was one of my lead motivations. I was like, I want to get back on that court. So I wanted to get my prosthetic as soon as possible. I wanted to start getting as comfortable in it as possible. So physical therapy. And it wasn't pretty at first, but it was so worth it. And within a year, I was back out on the basketball court with my teammates. And I wasn't starting. I wasn't fast, but I still got out there, and that's all that mattered. So I would say my lead motivation was basketball, and to really get out there and start my life again with that. But school-wise, everyone welcomed me back as normal, and that's really refreshing, because sometimes you can go through something like that and be like, everyone's going to treat me so differently, be walking on eggshells around me. And I'm never that person. I want everyone to be comfortable around me and just go about life the way it is. And they did. So.
And going through 8th grade, your middle school basketball team won the championship, right? In 8th grade?
Yes.
And you were the leading scorer in that game as well.
Yes.
So what a way to end your time in middle school. What was that culmination of that like? In that moment, you win a championship. You're the best player during that game for your team, rebounding points. How do you put that in perspective from where you were just even 3 years ago?
Well, I worked for everything I've gotten. Nothing came easy. And so after my 5th grade year, when I wasn't starting, because I was always a starter growing up, I went to the coaches. I was like, I want to work for my spot again. I want to be like the other girls again and not be any different. I just am missing a leg. And I probably won't ever be as fast as the other girls, but I still want to work for my spot. And they gave me a list of things to work on. I went over the summer, did it, and the next season I was starting for my team again. And then since then I was on the starting 5. So being able to win the championship game for my team and score for them, is very, again, full circle moment and humbling, because I was proud of myself in that moment.
In researching to do this interview about you, I learned something I didn't know before about the accident you were in 2019.
Yes.
So can you tell me about what happened there? It was with an all-terrain vehicle, and your leg got trapped underneath the vehicle.
Yeah.
So what happened on that situation?
Me and my friends were on a side-by-side, and we were going for like a morning drive in the fields, and it was like in the country area. And I was at her house, and we were going to turn, and the side-by-side ended up flipping over, and we didn't have our seatbelts on. I was on the side, and then my two other friends was in the middle, and then a driver. And as we flipped, the side-by-side crushed my prosthetic leg, and it got pinned underneath. And the other two girls were able to get out where I was pinned down. So I just like popped my leg off, and I crawled out, and I had like a gash in my face. And obviously we were shaken up, but the ER came, like the ambulance came, and the police officer was like to my parents, your daughter is very lucky, because if she didn't have that prosthetic leg, she would have bled out and died or lost her leg anyway. So I was just meant to be an amputee no matter what. And I think that's actually such a beautiful story. As much as that story is like so scary, and in the moment it was scary, it's like I was meant to be here. I was meant to have my sparkly leg. So.
And when did you first sparkle your leg?
So I've always had like glitter in my leg somehow, but I first rhinestoned it last year coming into college. Yeah.
That was the first time? Wow.
I think it's going to stay though.
I think
so.
The coaches would always, Coach Lindsay Zerberg and Coach Ryan Hines of the Alabama women's wheelchair basketball team. Coach Hines, we actually had on here previously, and I believe it was episode 5 of our podcast. Coach Hines is outstanding, and he's a hoot to be around if you ever get the chance to. We go around this gym that we're in right now, our beautiful weight room that we have here at the Strain Harden Arena, and you would pick out the rhinestones from Skylar that Skylar would leave behind. Wherever the rhinestones were, we knew Skylar was there.
Yep. I like to say I leave sparkle behind everywhere. So like, I just want people to think about me when they see it and be happy. Even though it would get caught in the wheels or their hands or their feet when they're working out, but it's okay.
Yeah, but from an early age, you were having fun with your leg, and you made it into a puppet. Like you're covering over it, correct?
So, my nub's name, or my residual limb, is named Felicia. So I got the name Felicia in the hospital. When the nurses would leave the room, I'd wave my nub and be like, bye, Felicia. And then they started saying, bye, Felicia. And that's how Felicia was born. And so on social media, I started Felicia Fridays. So we would put a face on Felicia, and she would talk to the camera, whether it was her birthday, Christmas, holiday, wishing everyone a happy holidays. And she just became a character for me. Now, Felicia Fridays have retired. I don't know if she'll come back, but Felicia always will live forever. So,
what a great way to have humor about it, and just to enjoy it. And just to enjoy it. It's so important to embrace your differences, and you have them, because I think we try in all of our childhood, we try to fit in. And when you get to this point in your life, you're in college, and especially when you get into the job market, all you want to do is be different. And I think that's something that's so unique about your story, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful part of your story.
Thank you.
So, going into high school, you're still playing stand-up basketball at the beginning. What was the point when you found, hey, maybe adaptive would be better for me?
So going into high school, like I said, basketball was always my sport. My parents told me when I sucked at something, and basketball was the thing I was good at. And going into high school, I was really looking forward to being on my stand-up basketball team, getting minutes, playing with the other girls, and like really proving myself, because my dream was to always be the first D3 below knee or like amputee women's basketball player for college. And so I really wanted that. Then I got to college, and the coaches moved up every single girl to varsity besides me. And I filmed, and in my exit interview that season, I go, what do I need to work on? Like, what happened? Why didn't I make varsity? And they essentially ended up telling me, there's nothing you can work on because you're very good. There's seniority over some things, but also we just needed a girl to videotape. So hearing that, as I'm madly in love with the sport, it just crushed me, and it was humiliating. And I let them know. It was super embarrassing, but I was like, I want to be on the team. I want to work for my spot still. Sophomore year comes around, and I ended up getting bumped up. Every girl did, but I wasn't playing in the varsity games. And if I did, it was the last 43 seconds, even though we've been crushing the team the whole game. And I remember the one game where I got put in those 43 seconds. I just felt defeated. I was like, why am I doing this still? And it was a very hard time for me because basketball's been my whole life. It was the thing that got me out of the darkest place in my life. So essentially, like, kind of being told you're not good enough was hard for me. And so I looked up at my mom in the stands and they knew, but I was like, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to finish the season through. Halfway through the season, I had a news interview with a local news channel, and a Paralympian ended up seeing that. And she DM'd me on Instagram and said, hey, I see you play stand-up basketball. Is there any chance you would like to try wheelchair basketball out? And at first I was like, I'm not going to play wheelchair basketball. Like, I can run, I can jump, and I still have my dreams to play college basketball standing up. Like, why am I going to limit myself? And I was so wrong because my mom was like trying to push me. And then eventually God told me, like, put your pride aside. And I did. So I went to my very first practice in Cleveland for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I met Tim Fox and he introduced me to the sport. The guys were amazing. And as soon as I sat in that chair, I fell in love with basketball all over again. After it was just ripped from me and I was like so heartbroken over the sport, it just gave me like this new view on it and like a sense of fulfillment. And so I continued practicing, and I was going to my very first wheelchair basketball camp at Alabama over the summer. But after the season was over, after my camp with Alabama, there was an open gym for the stand-up basketball team. And I ended up going, and I went to the coaches because I don't believe in just quitting. I don't believe in just leaving people hanging. I always stand up for like what I believe in. And one thing I'm like very proud of myself for is and in the most positive way possible, outspoken and like to share my voice. So I went to the coaches and I said, I will not be returning this season to you guys. I'm going to be focusing on wheelchair basketball. I have goals and a very reachable goal to play D1 basketball at the University of Alabama. You guys embarrassed me the last 2 years, and I wish you guys the best, but I'm not coming back. I have to walk away from something that I love dearly that broke my heart. And they're like, okay, like whatever, like, just what do you say to that? But like as a high schooler, that's what I needed to do to close that chapter of my life. And soon after, Brent and Coach Hines saw something in me and believed in me for that. And God does not fall short of blessings because it led me here. So,
where do you find that faith from? How did that continue to grow within you over the adversity you faced over your life and get you to a place where you're so strong in your faith that nothing can take you off course?
I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't have moments where it felt hindered a little bit, but I would say my parents are truly my rocks throughout all of it. They were heavy on just taught like everything in my life, bringing God into it. And I think that's important because I try to bring God into every aspect of my life, no matter what it is. And it could be at the grocery store, or just going to get gas. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to find God in every moment of my life. But, especially as a high schooler, I just think knowing that God has brought me that far, it's how do you doubt him when he has shown himself so many times over and over again in your life? How are you deny that? You can't.
That's one of the great things about our stories, and everyone has a story. You just have, sometimes you have to put on maybe a different pair of glasses to see God in your story. Sometimes the world clouds our view, but when we put on our God glasses, if you will, then we can see him everywhere. And you can't tell your story. And I feel the same way about my story. I can't tell my story without talking about God and what God's done in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that. And I know you are too, about the way your diagnosis happened, the way, you think about cancer, 10 years old, grim prospects, stage 4. We're talking about stage 4 cancer. That's life-changing, but you've turned it into good. And God can turn your worst day into your greatest day.
I agree.
Look back on it. And I know for my family, we celebrate the day of my spinal cord injury as the day that started the rest of my life, right? And so I empathize with that so much. I thought it was so interesting that your mom, going back to when you were 10, knew there was something wrong, knew there was something more to it. And I love it when the doctor says, "We've never seen this before. Never seen this before." I've heard that a time or two before. We've never seen it. Never good when the doctor says, "I've never seen this before."
They should take that out of their vocabulary. Like they should not say that anymore.
Never say that because first, I think back to Seinfeld. There's a moment where George Costanza, he's in the hospital for something on his lip, and he says, "I've never seen that like that. Never seen that before." And he's like, "Never seen this before? You're a doctor." No, but not every doctor's seen everything at the same time, obviously. But your mom knew it was something more than just a benign mark or whatever it might have been, plantar fasciitis. And you got the MRI. How does your relationship with your mom grown over the years, and what does she mean to you?
I wish I could cry talking about her.
That's okay.
She's my superwoman. Like, she's truly the most amazing woman you'll like ever meet, and like so strong, and keeps our family together, and the most like joyous laugh, loud, and just my best friend. And it's still to this day, like FaceTime her every single day, multiple times throughout the day. Like, it's hard being away from her, but I love her so much. And she just kept that family so strong and together the whole time throughout my journey. And so I don't know, I could like go on and on about her, but that's like the easiest way to put it. She's superwoman.
When you came down here to the University of Alabama, you brought your family with you to that wheelchair basketball camp. And one of the first things you saw was the elephant in front of Bryant-Denny Stadium. And it goes back to a story when you were just after your diagnosis, you're doing a fundraising efforts for you and your family, and you're looking for an animal to put on the T-shirt, like a mascot for it of sorts. And you chose the elephant with its trunk up, signaling good luck. What was it like to see that show, one of the first things you see on the University of Alabama's campus?
Again, God does not fail to show himself and make things so abundantly clear where you're meant to be. And when I arrived on campus, like, I already knew Alabama was beautiful. I didn't know anything about the college, so I didn't know anything about the mascot. And so when I was trying to find the big university sign to take an Instagram picture and show people like, hey, I'm at camp, I was leaving camp and I was already crying. So I was like, this is home. Like, this is amazing. And then when we pull up and see the big elephant sign, my parents and I was like, again, took me back to when I found out I had cancer. And like, we just all embraced each other and we all hugged and cried when we saw this elephant. And my family, we like to call ourselves sappy because we do really like to embrace those moments with each other. Yeah. It was just a full circle moment. And it was God saying, like, you've been through so much, but here we are, and I've brought you here, and this is where you're meant to be. And it was only 3 months after playing wheelchair basketball. I didn't know if I was going to end up being good, but I already started talking to Coach Hines at that point, and it was clear. Like, how do you like say no to that in those signs? But yeah, Big Al is a big part of my story.
That's great. It's so many people have that experience, just coming here to the campus, just feeling at home. Just feeling at home. And you can't come to this arena, to this facility here at the Strain Harden Arena without being in awe. It's the best facility in the country for what we do here in adaptive athletics, and it really is amazing that we have this here at the University of Alabama. What was it like? You're coming from Ohio down to Alabama. That's a big decision at the time. And then you have to wait, obviously, till you get the offer from Coach Hines before you officially have the okay to come here. What was that process like of thinking about what adaptive athletics and what wheelchair basketball has in your life post high school?
Again, I really didn't know where I was going to go after high school with like adaptive sports. I didn't know. I knew I wanted to continue on and try for Team USA, but I didn't know my potential. I didn't know where I was going to go with that. But I knew I wanted to work for it, and I wanted to be the best I can be. And my parents have always like spoke greatness over me, and like they always speak really positive things into my life. And I think that plays a huge role into it. And so I just knew I wanted to come here and work hard. And I think Bama and this program has done more for me than I could have ever imagined. And I'm just really so blessed for that.
What are some of the things that maybe you had expectations of coming in, or maybe things that you didn't have expectations for that truly impacted you as being a part of this team and being a part of this program? Well,
I would like to first start off by discussing my team.
Yeah.
I've played on an all men's team for wheelchair basketball, and I didn't know the dynamic that I'd be going into with all females. They've all been playing together for a really long time. And when I came in, like they became my best friends so fast. And I can strongly and proudly say, like, those are my sisters. Like, I have a connection with each one, like each of the girls on the team. We hang out. Like, Coach Hines is one of the girls too, I would say. And Coach Zerby, like, is amazing. So that was one of my expectations that just was exceeded. With like social media, I was not expecting to go where I'm heading, but God always finds a way for a platform to be positive, and He did. And that's bringing advocacy for wheelchair basketball, disability awareness, our childhood cancer, and showing that to the world. So I think that exceeded expectations as well. So, and I could go on and on, honestly, about that, but those are some of the main ones.
So you mentioned social media. You do social media here as an intern for Adaptive Athletics, and you also are very active on your own social media accounts. When was that a point of emphasis for you that you said, I have this voice, I have this story, and I have this infectious personality. How can I go out and share that and reach other people? When was that realization for you? So
it started when I first kind of got recognized on social media, and I started drawing followers in, which was when I was going to Bama Bound, and OOTDs, or Outfit of the Days, are like huge here in Alabama for the sororities and Bama Rush. And so I was like, I can't rush, but I'm going to do an OOTD for Bama Bound. And I shouted out my leg in the OOTD, like shirt from Amazon, leg from Hanger Clinic. And it blew up on TikTok. Like, everyone loved that I did that. They loved the pink leg. I had a pink leg at the time. And it ended up reaching Daily Mail, Inside Edition. And so that's when I started drawing it in. And when I was doing these interviews, they just wanted to talk about Bama Rush essentially and OOTDs. But I wanted to talk about something bigger. I wanted to talk about our program. Like, I'm not going to rush. Let's highlight this athlete that's an athlete, and she's doing this instead of just sororities. So that's kind of when I knew I wanted, where I wanted to go with my social media journey. And Kelsey here, the head of marketing, and Brent has been amazing helping me do that. And I would say it's helped quite a bit already. And I just continue to try fighting for that.
What is your vision for the impact you want to have on bringing awareness to adaptive athletics, childhood cancer, all these initiatives that you're passionate about and that are meaningful to you? Where do you see that taking you in the years to come?
I wish I had an answer for that, but I really don't. I used to be really heavy on planning that kind of stuff out, but I just realized, I was like, God just takes me in so many different directions, something so much different than what I had planned. So I've kind of given up trying to plan it. But all I know is I want to make an impact. And ever since I was a little girl, I always said, like, I want to change the world somehow, whether it's one person or whether it's millions of people. Like, I don't care as long as it's a life changed for the better. And that's just my goal.
Have you seen that motivation to inspire others play out amongst people you've met, maybe other young girls, or even people that are older than you? How have you seen that manifest?
I would say I like to have a personal connection with anyone I come across. Any person I meet, I want to know them on a deeper level. I don't want to just be like, hi, how are you? And then go about our day, like, genuine, like, how are you? Like, What's new in your life? What's your story? I want to know all of that and make that close connection with you. So when I see you down the line, I remember you and you remember me, and we're not strangers. So like, that's how I want to bring awareness to people, and I don't know, just have that connection. But along with that, I've had some really impactful stories and moments with young girls, and stories that have been shared with me that I've inspired others. And it truly, like, again, I'm a sappy person, and like, it makes me cry and get emotional thinking about it, because my goal and my fulfillment and what God has placed me on this earth to do, I'm doing it. And that's like that's more than I could ever ask for.
So you're part of the national championship team this past year for the women's wheelchair basketball team. What was that season like for you in your first year? You have so much success. There was a lot of adversity last season for your team. Overcoming it and winning a national championship against UTA last year. What was that like for you in your freshman season?
It was so humbling. It's so exciting, because I am learning literally from the best players I could ever learn from, especially as a 4-5, learning from Bailey Moody and Excel Gonzalez. Like, that is truly so amazing to me, and along with playing with other national team members. So I just took a lot of pride in being able to watch them and learn and cheer my teammates on, because truly cheering them on was like the most fun thing ever. They're so fun to watch. Like, you have to watch a game, and like, you have to be like cheering and jumping, because they're like, you can't just sit quiet while watching them play. They're so cool. But when that final buzzer went off for the championship game, it was just, wow. Again, one of those moments, I've came so far, and now I'm going to be receiving a championship ring. First one, hopefully. And
first of many, right?
The first of many. And that was just a really cool moment.
You spoke about some of the talent that we have here. Bailey and Itzy, they're incredible. And there's so many more national team and Paralympic athletes that we have here in our program. It's where the best athletes in college come. It really is, here at the University of Alabama. It's a credit to the coaches and to what Dr. Strand and Dr. Harden have built here as the founders of our program. How about the people behind that? You mentioned that earlier too, just how great it's been to learn from them. But how about to be friends with them? And as you said earlier, be sisters with them. Mm-hmm. Some of the friendships you've made along the way.
Yeah. You know, at first, like, coming in, I was like, always thought they were the coolest people. I was like, they're the best athletes, but they're the best people off the court as well. And they're the best friends. They genuinely care how you're doing. If we're having a bad practice, bad day, you can always rely on my teammates to text you, or like the other girls, be like, hey, I saw you weren't like in the best space today. How are you doing? Let's go out to lunch. And I think that's the best thing a teammate could do.
Your major is going to be human development and family studies here at the University of Alabama. What's unique about that is that the Paralympian that reached out to you, Darlene Hunter, her doctorate is in family studies. So an interesting correlation there. She's a gold medalist and also a bronze Paralympian as well for Team USA and the women's wheelchair basketball program. What do you want to do with your major post-grad? How do you want to impact people through your life that's going to carry over, obviously, into your career?
Yeah. So with my major, it's a concentration of child life. So I essentially want to be a child life specialist in hospitals just for kids going through any sort of scary thing. And I think I can speak firsthand on that, especially in the cancer section of things, that I want to be a living testimony to these children and these families that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, like I had a child life specialist and I loved her in the hospital, but like she saw it every day, but I got to live it every day. And so, like I said, I'd like to make a personal connection with anyone I meet. And now I have the opportunity to do that. And like God made it very clear to me that I was meant to do that. I was at a high school church youth group camp, and I was like wanting to go journalism, PR, communications route, because I love talking to people. I love the camera. I love all that stuff. But God, like I literally heard him say to me, "You're going to be a child life specialist." And I said, "Okay, God." I was like, "I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to be obedient." And that's what I did. And even though like I'm doing a lot of stuff with social media, I still want to continue that career with child life because I know that's my calling.
When you look back on your life so far, think back to when you were 10 years old and you first get your cancer diagnosis to where you are today, sitting here as a sophomore at the University of Alabama, national champion, rabid fan base online, and obviously so many friends and people that care about you here and all around the country. How do you put that into words?
I can't. It's, again, humbling. And the love that surrounded me, like, is so beautiful. And I'm so grateful for that. I don't think I would have, if you asked sophomore year high school me, that I would be here today. And like the people I'm surrounded by, the opportunities I'm having, I would have been like, no way. I was like, there's no way. I'm going to still be in Ohio going to college somewhere. And it's just amazing how far your life can take you when you just set your mind to things and you work hard for everything.
It's amazing what God can do, isn't it?
It is.
It's amazing.
It is.
And for the final, before we do the final question today, we'll do our final sip, brought to you by Powerade.
Let's do it.
I'm a little parched.
Me too.
We thank our friends at Powerade for their support of adaptive athletics and of this program. Skylar, thank you so much for coming on today. First off, amazing story. I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for you being willing to share your story today and being the advocate that you are. For people that are looking for purpose, especially post-diagnosis, post-injury, whatever that might be in the disability world or even in life, they're having a setback and don't quite know what their purpose is. You've found purpose through pain, through suffering, and you've gotten to the point where you are today. What is some advice that you could give people that are looking for purpose but aren't finding it?
I think it's really easy to say from a faith-based what I tell myself constantly, and it's Philippians 4:13. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And like I touched on earlier, God hasn't brought you this far to fail you now. And it just depends on your mindset and how you want to look at life to take you out of those dark times. Because if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And just be strong. And keep a smile on your face.
That's perfect. That's perfect. A smile can go a long way.
I agree.
And even when you don't know when God can make a way, he always does.
Always.
God will make a way.
Always.
And Skylar, thank you for coming on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Of course. And we'll see you next time on Game On.